Plan view is where I can tag things to locations on the plan. So for example, let's say I'm pouring concrete in a location. I can mark that location. I can open that record up, fill it out. I can pin things to anywhere on that map based on whatever I'm doing. And then again, I can put in things like video or audio of actually what's happening in the field. Again, we're moving to providing rich content to people so that they can see what's going on in their jobs and what they can do with it in the back office, or just to have it for protection or claims. So I'm going to go back into my project. Again, I'm logged in as a project manager. And I'm going to access what we would call an issue within Prolog. Now, an issue is a document that allows us to obviously create a critical issue. This is something that hasn't become a change order yet, but it's something that's happening on the job that I want to start getting my arms around and putting all the information together and protecting myself from a claims, or if I need to hand this over to a potential change order, I can gather all the information related around this issue. So for example, we looked at a quick video earlier in the field of somebody pouring concrete. Well, guess what? I was looking at that video and I saw, you know what? That concrete looked like the wrong design specification. It looked really soupy. I didn't see any chairs. There was welded wire mesh instead of rebar on the ground. So I noticed this when I saw the video, and I went, oh, you know what, we need to correct that. I stopped the guys from pouring concrete. And what I can do is capture some basic information about that issue, and then I can start linking all this information together. So I can go back to the event, the concrete that was poured from the production report, pull that up. I actually have links to the video that we looked at earlier. So now I have a link to the event that the concrete was poured. So I know that that happened. So then the first thing I did was I called up the superintendent out there and said, hey, what's going on? I saw the daily report. I saw the concrete you were pouring. It looked like the wrong spec. You know what? The superintendent or the manager said, you know what, Tim, I'll meet you out at the job at 11 a.m. Let's figure out what's going on here. So I captured that conversation in what's called our conversation log. So it's just a quick way to protect myself. I captured it. So then I go out into the site. I can meet him. I actually did a field interview with my iPad. So I was able to take the iPad out in the field. I recorded these guys' conversations. And what they told me was, you know what? We submitted a rebar design, and in the specifications and drawings, there's no rebar shown. And so I had to go research that. So what did I do? I linked it to the drawing. So let's take a look at the drawing or sketch. I can come in here, say, you know what? Okay, well, let's look at the detail. I can view that information and see, well, the drawings show that there is rebar and chairs that are supposed to be there. I could then maybe go into the specification and go, well, let's see what the specs say. So I've linked to the specification. I can pull up the spec itself. And if I scroll down here, I can look through. And I actually found out that, you know what, in the specifications, they called for welded wire mesh, not rebar. So I have a discrepancy in my drawings and in the specifications. And then I could even link this to the approved submittal with the rebar and mesh designs if I wanted to. So I can link to anything in here to create an encapsulated issue. So for example, if I wanted to, I could come in and say, you know what, I want to link to my submittals. Let's go to our submittal packages and link to the submittal that had been approved by the architect and engineer. When I come in here, it would show me all of the submittals. I can go, oh, well, here's my rebar design and maybe the mixed design. Select those, and now those are also linked to this. So as you're seeing, we're starting to develop a real-world issue with all of the history that happened around this issue. I saw a video that looked like the concrete was going in wrong. I called the superintendent from the subcontractor. I met him on site, did an interview. I was able to get his information, tie it back to a discrepancy in the between the drawings and the specifications, pull up the submittal where they approve the rebar layout, and mix designs. So now I have an encapsulated issue protecting me, or at least providing the best information to my contracts people and my managers so that they know what's going on and all the issues around it, and it's in one central location. And this is just one of the workflows that protect us when you use Prolog. Not just protect us, but make your life better as a contractor. It's built for contractors and the way that they do business. And then it encapsulates that all into one area, so the next thing I can do is maybe start itemizing out what it's going to price if I have to rework this stuff. We can worry about whose liability it is later, but I might put demo the existing concrete. I can enter an estimate of what I think it's going to be by a project manager, and then again provide rich content related specifically to that line item. Well, in addition to that, if you hadn't seen, we have a previous webinar that you'll receive in the notification after this webinar is over, where you can look at some other content where maybe I could hand this off to our estimator, because we have a closed loop process between Prolog, WinEst, and ModelLogix. So maybe I don't have the experience to price out what this rework's going to be, but I want to send that over to something like WinEst for our estimating crew to be able to price that out. Maybe they can send me back information and I can fill that out. So we're building out workflows that make sense for the users that are using this system. Oh, and by the way, we have full-blown workflow associated with the entire system, so that I don't have to know who to send this to or who wants to consume this information. The system would know, and I can develop a library of best practices around that with all the workflow and approvals that need to happen around this issue. So as soon as I save this issue, it fires that. It allows me to review it, or the project manager to review it, and then maybe it sends it over to the project executive and the contracts administrator, and then maybe up the chain. The workflows are completely dependent on your organization, and you can build your own libraries of workflows. But then what the person would see on the other end is, let's say I get a workflow issue. Let me click on this one here, Prolog. And it would let me see how the approval process is going, who's seen it so far. So in this case, this is a daily field report workflow example. These can be branded with your logos, and the text can be customized for you. It does ship out of the box with some of these notifications and messaging, but you can change that. You can see where it is in the workflow process. Is it approved or not? If it's late, the system will actually send it out or escalate the issue to somebody else, so we can manage all of that. And then, again, with that simple hyperlink that takes me right back to the document. So that whole workflow capability built on top of the business processes that are in place really makes us the project control system of choice out in the industry for today.